So one of the ways that I teach agents to break into luxury is to leverage other people's properties with their permission, of course, right? So like on my podcast, I had a gentleman with Compass out of Miami, Amit Bhutta, and he talked about how he would go into other agents' broker open houses, caravan tours, usually during the week in your market, checking your MLS, and these broker tours are open.
First question is, why luxury, right? Like, why should somebody specialize in luxury? And what's the advantage of being a luxury listing agent?
Well, I believe the fastest way for an agent that's watching this or watching a replay of this to get instant credibility from their database and their sphere and people that know them, like them, and trust them. Matter of fact, people that you don't even know that well, you don't even know if they know that you're in real estate. The way to get their attention and get credibility is if you represent some of those upper price point homes, even if it's just a one-time deal, but you get that trophy property in their market. It's an attention grabber. It's a showstopper, and you get that respect, right? And it's a conversational starter. We are in a show and tell industry, and you got a picture behind me of an exotic car, and if I were to do a TikTok or a video, Instagram post in front of an exotic car, and then I did one before in front of a Chevy Impala, 2018 Chevy Impala, which one would get more likes and clicks? And it shouldn't be that way, but that's just the world that we're in. And so I do believe agents will get a better return on impression as well as return on investment when some of those upper price points are involved. Now, that doesn't mean you quit what pays the bills, right? If you're selling the entry level or starter price point in your market, but I do believe by having some representation of those upper price points, an agent's conversion rate will be much higher than an agent that just goes after those entry level, because subconsciously, Randy, that consumer says, man, if Randy represents those really cool properties, those sellers must have done some due diligence on Randy. Maybe the office, the manager, their gatekeeper did some background, there's some credit checks or whatever it might be on that agent. So if it's good enough for Randy, then it's probably good enough for us in our average price property.
So it's like credibility. It's a reputation setting thing. When you did realize, did you start off as a luxury agent, or did you sort of work your way up?
No, I worked my way up like everybody else, right? So the first property I ever sold was a $80,000 condo, and it was
Where was that?
What's that?
Where was it?
It's a town called Glen Ellen, Illinois. It's a suburb of Chicago, and I remember going on that listing appointment like everybody else, right? You're nervous, and I had my mentor there, and the guy threw me a bone. I played basketball with him on, old man basketball on Wednesday nights and so he got to know me and he liked me and he gave me the opportunity. And so it takes time. But, if I were to go back to my younger self, I would say, don't wait, 12 years before you go after those upper price points. Like, go after it earlier. And that would be one thing I would tell myself had I known.
And then go ahead, Randy.
No,
all right. I'll ask a follow-up question. So so how do you work your way up? How do you go after the listing?
I teach a strategy. If you remember, I'm looking, I do it. I don't think I have it handy, but I teach a strategy. There's an old song from the 1990s called OPP. You remember that song?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Other people's properties. That's what OPP stood for. Other people's properties. So one of the ways that I teach agents to break into luxury is to leverage other people's properties with their permission, of course, right? So, like on my podcast, I had a gentleman with Compass out of Miami, Amit Bhutta, and he talked about how, he would go into other agents' broker open houses, caravan tours, usually during the week in your market, checking your MLS, and these broker tours are open not necessarily to the public, but to other realtors to come tour because they might have a buyer. And so if I were to role play with Randy, I'd be like, hey, Randy, I see you have this amazing listing at 123 Elm Street. You're having a broker tour tomorrow from 11 to 1. I'd love to come by. And I'm just wondering if I can get your permission. I would tag you and promote the house and promote if you have a single property website for the home. But just checking to see if that's okay, because I'd love my database. I'd love to bring the buyer for you, and I would fully disclose that I'm not the agent and tag you. Would that be okay? And so what happens is, Randy might say no. Well, then go to the next, right? But then most, if you have some rapport and you're not a slimy agent in your market and you have a good name, they're going to probably say okay for you. And then all of a sudden what happens is we're in a show and tell industry, and then people are on Facebook and they're scrolling up, and all of a sudden they see that I'm at Randy's listing this week and talking about, how it's an amazing property, but most people are at work and they're just scrolling up and it's on mute, but they see me at an amazing property. And then guess what? Next week I'm at your amazing property, Mark. And then the next week I'm at Jill's, and then Bernadette's. And all of a sudden they see me at amazing properties, and they associate me with upper price points. I gain knowledge. I gain confidence. I understand materials. I step out of my comfort zone, and this is where the magic happens. So that's one way you can do that. The second way, before I go into that, any questions on that?
Oh, it's a great strategy. We've done that. We've all done that, I think.
But being
Okay.
strategic about it, right? Planning your week, right? And going in different areas. One of my good friends, he's in medical sales. He lives in Michigan, Randy, and his father told him, go to where the money was. He had an opportunity to uplift his family and move to Michigan. And his dad, I'll never forget, told him, go to where the money is. Well, as an agent, you might have to go to where the money is in some of those upper price point areas. Maybe they're not in your immediate farm, right? So you might have to drive 30 to 40 minutes each week for these broker tours. But last time I looked, California real estate agent can represent, in wine country or San Diego. Michigan could go, Traverse City to Detroit, right? Have car, will travel. And so that's kind of been my philosophy.
Want to keep getting tips? Hit the subscribe button as well. Thanks for watching, and we hope you get a lot out of this.